Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I would like to introduce to everyone Alejandra Ayala. She is an online candidate specialist at Google and the founder of Puente Tech, a career placement company focused on helping professionals transition into the technology sector. She has a non-traditional career path into the world of tech and seeks to help others like her break into the industry. I'm really excited about this interview, and I wanted to start by asking you about your story about breaking into tech. You have a really interesting story about how you got into recruiting in tech, so tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'd love to share that. I love that question. It's one of my favorites. I was one of these people when I was graduating high school. I had no idea what I really wanted to do. I wasn't like, oh my God, I gotta go to college now. And to be honest with you, college was something that wasn't really top priority, like in my family. It wasn't like, this is the traditional pathway you go. I come from a working class family. I am a first generation Mexican American, and both of my parents are Mexican. And my father, so like before I go on and on, I gotta tell you about my family so that I could tell you who I am, and then I will I will answer about my career. So my dad, he's a janitor. He's a retired janitor now, and my mom, she's still a housekeeper at a hospital. So we grew up really working class and really humble and really like just work really hard. You're gonna do fine. You're just keep working hard. So I did that. I've had a job since I was 15 years old. And I was like, I love independence. I love having my own money. And when I graduated high school, I really did not know what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't. So I went to community college and I was like, wow, college is so boring. I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm like, I'm not doing well. And what I know now is that I'm not a traditional learner. I'm not an excellent exam taker. That's not who I am. But I really picked things up very, very quickly. So all through my process, I began working in hospitality and I loved it. I come from the Disneyland Resort, and that's the first place that was like, hey, I don't know if you know this about yourself, but you're a leader. And I was like, what? You're crazy. It got to the point where they were like, okay, it's time for you to apply to be a lead. And I was like, no, I don't know everything. You're crazy. I've only been here for 2 years. How could you want to promote me? That's insane. Or it had been 1 year, it had been less than 1 year. And they were like, look, if the boss of the boss is talking to you about applying to be a lead, then you should just apply to be a lead. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go do that, Ron. His name is Ron Salaji. He's still there. He's amazing. And I went and applied and I became a lead. And then they sent me to all these like leadership courses, and I really got super Disneyfied. I love Disney. They really have some of the top of the line training. They love training and development of people. So as a cast member, I got to experience that firsthand. And I became a core trainer and like a staff development person where I was really working with the core team of developing and training new cast members of the Disneyland Resort who are coming into guest services for the hotels. And I absolutely loved it. I got to train and develop people. That's when I was like, I love people. I want to keep doing this stuff. So time went on and I was ready for a new challenge. Hotels, it's fantastic, but it wasn't where I saw myself growing. And I was like, I don't know, I got to try something else, but I like people. So I moved to the Bay Area. And the reason why I really came to the Bay Area was because I took a self-development class and I realized that my true passion, one of my childhood passions was to be on the radio. And I was like, oh, I went to radio broadcasting school actually, right? I did like a trade school program to be a broadcaster, and it was awesome. And out of this course, I got that I was really secretly wanting to be on the radio, and I didn't have the courage to pursue it. And I didn't think it was a real job. My mom was like, that's not a real job, Alejandra. You need to like work with a computer and, be a secretary. My mom was always like, you should be a secretary. And I'm like, oh, sounds awful, right? So I came to the Bay Area. I got on the radio because my cousin knew a guy that needed an intern. I became the intern. And then I need to get a job. I was like, oh, bills. That's awful. So I started working at a Marriott, given I had a hospitality background. It was a great fit for the city. And then I began to think about different problems inside of a company. Like I was starting to wonder things like, well, what would it be like to work with people that were similar to me? What would it be like to not have so many rules? What would it be like to have new ideas? And then I started trying it, and it was very quick to be like a no, like this is not the environment. So I started thinking, well, what is the environment? And as I started developing myself in just different areas and tuning into what makes me me, I realized that I wanted to go to people. Like, would it be, I started wondering, like, who hires these people? Like, who says yes to all these people? That was something that was so clear in my mind, and like kind of a little bit judgy. Like, who even hires these people? And then I was like, oh, recruiting. They do that. So let me go learn about recruiting. I think that's better for me. It's a lot faster. It's more competitive. It's more where I can kind of play and, you know, move faster and learn faster and learn how to assess people and how to build teams. I thought that was very, very important for a company. So I applied for like this recruiting coordinator position at Adobe as a contractor. And the hiring manager called me. She was like, I see that you've managed events before, but I would love to speak to you about this role. Her name is Isa Hernandez, and she is one of the only Mexican leaders in the area at Adobe, in the areas of recruiting. She's still there now. We developed an amazing relationship, and I consider her someone that I can call throughout my career. And she was like, I want to give you a shot. I want to see, you know, how it works out. And I started as a recruiting coordinator, and that's really how I broke into tech. It was like somebody found my profile. I applied for the position, and she looked at it and she was like, you know, you don't have a college degree, you don't have, you know, you haven't worked in tech before, you've never been in recruiting, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I just focused on talking about what I was good at, not focusing on what I didn't know about recruiting, which was nothing. So that was an awesome experience, and also the toughest job I've ever had, still to today. Like that role just rocked me. Like the type of like volume and quality and speed that has to happen all at once, I've never experienced before. And I think that I was really lucky to find a few gems along the way that were like, okay, just like get through this part and I'll help you. You know, like I had a lot of teamwork. I had a lot of people that showed up for me. I think people that I've showed up for in the past were like, okay, it's our turn to help you now. Which I'm super, super grateful for. But that's a little bit about me and how I broke into tech. Out of, you know, from Adobe, I was recruited to Google, and I'm finishing up my 2 years right now. And it's been crazy, but I think I learned so much more than I have in like, I think in 3 years of working in tech, I've learned more than like 7 years of not working in tech.
Nice.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. The other thing I've heard you talk about, and you mentioned in that story, is not having a college degree. Can you talk a little bit about how we are limiting our talent pools when we're requiring college degrees for some of these roles, in particular in tech, I think, that don't necessarily need them?
Yes, I love this question. It's so important to me. I'm a huge advocate for non-traditional learners like myself. Uh, Companies are missing out on tons of talent. There are a lot of people that didn't have the resources or the discipline or the structure to have success in those areas. And it really adds a lot of pressure to people when they have a lot of student debt as well. So that's also something that I wasn't really attracted to. And the thing about not having a college degree, I think some of the major, honestly, I feel like the biggest obstacles for me were in confidence. I really thought, I was like, oh, I don't know if I'm adequate. I don't know if, I don't know that I earn my spot like everyone else. You know, I would just have these ideas about myself. And I never thought I could work at Google without a college degree. I really didn't. I didn't think that was possible. But as now that like I've been in there for 2 years, and I listen to how we put together job descriptions, and I specialize in putting that together. Little by little, we're moving away from it. For most of the roles at Google, we no longer require it. But to be honest with you, it's almost like they're just saying that to be nice sometimes, because although it's not on the JD, it's not on the job description, you won't see it, you need a BA or whatever, the type of experience that is required will be very hard to get if you don't have a college degree. Like you got to be like some type of unicorn sometimes to get through these hoops without it, because of getting a start. So I would say that companies are missing out on so much talent. But for me, the biggest obstacle really wasn't to have it on paper. The biggest obstacle was that I really didn't believe in myself. And I think that it just added another layer, because I'm already Mexican. I was like, I'm already a brown woman. I don't have a college degree. I look a certain way. I speak a certain way. My name is a certain way. And then when you know so much about recruiting and bias, you're just like, oh man, I don't know if I'll ever have a real chance out there. You're just so jaded by so much information and data that you have. So for me, I just try to focus on being confident in myself and my abilities, because at the end of the day, I'm like, I look around and I'm the only one without a college degree on my team. Like, no, like hands down. But at the same time, we're on the same team. We're literally on the same table. We're literally at the same level. And there have been many times when my approach is actually what drives the conversation forward. So that's something that I'm really proud of and something that I'm known for. So I'm like, I don't know what it is, but something that I did does work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about Puente Tech and where you're at with that company. You founded it last year, correct?
Yes.
And your goal initially was to help people transition into roles in tech like you did. But talk to me about, kind of how that started and maybe now what it's become.
Yes, that's a great question. A lot of updates in that area. So Puente Tech originally basically a year ago, we started really drafting this up. And I guess nobody tells you step by step how to start a business. And I'm not, another like traditional way of approaching a business. I was like, look, we have an idea, let's go and get a business license, and then we get clients. And I literally thought that's how you did business. Like these are the steps, and then you get a bank account and then you collect money. I was like, it can't be that difficult. But as we started mapping out, like, what is our communication strategy? Who is it that we're actually targeting? And then who is it that you are? What is it that your skills are? Where are you an expert? What we discovered is that my business partner and I don't have the skill set to work as a team. I'm a people operations expert. She is a researcher, not an operations person that I would need right now, or not another consultant expert that could consult on the same level in the areas of people. So that wasn't there. And I really, we were building a team off of like, you're awesome and you're super smart, and I'm awesome and I'm super smart, and we care about the same thing and we stand for the same things. And why wouldn't this work out? We really care. And as we started developing, I was like, wow, so you need to more than just passion. This is insane. Like you need a plan and all these things figured out. And at the end of the day, it was one of the most difficult conversations that I've had to have with my business partner, because she was like, I thought we were going to do this for a long time, So for me, it was a very growing moment as an entrepreneur. It was a moment where I had to take responsibility and accountability for what I had started and what I changed my mind on. And originally, Puente Tech was a company created to transition people into tech. But I'm still kind of doing that. Where we are right now is that My business partner is focusing more on her career, and I'm focused more on being a people operations consultant. So I'm kind of branching off on my own, and I started doing a lot of career coaching. Turns out that I love coaching people. I didn't know that. I actually refused to be a coach. I was like, I can't be a coach. Everyone's a coach. I just want to be, I hate this. I don't want to be a coach. But I started getting really empowered when the people I talked to were getting results. Like I knew someone who was like, hey, I think you can coach me on my interviews. And I was like, I don't coach people. Okay, leave me alone. She was like, okay, when you're ready, I'll be here. And I was like, oh my God, you're crazy. And then finally I was like, maybe I could try this. So I reached back out to her and I'm like, I'm ready to try it. Can you be my, we'll try it on and see if whatever I'm doing is working. And she had been looking for a job for 1.5 years, and she got a job after 3 weeks of working with me.
Wow.
And I was like, oh my God. And then she didn't stop there. She was like, okay, so now that I got my job, I know that I'm not going to want to be there for a long time. I was wondering if you could be my career coach and you could help me create the career that I do want. And, I'm going to need a few promotions and I'm going to have to pivot here and this and that. And I think you can help me get there. And I was like, okay, so we started trying it and it's just been really rewarding for me. I was like, I love this. Oh my God. And my approach to coaching people on their career is, especially around interviews, is offering the perspective of a recruiter. I actually know what recruiters want and hiring managers. I've had thousands of conversations around what we're looking for in people. So when I work with candidates, with people that are looking, job seekers, I just help position them to put them in a place where they're, where their stories are exactly what people are looking to hear out of them. And I find that it was the same problem that was my problem was theirs. It was confidence level and like practice. That's all. I'm like, you're not supposed to be good at this, okay? Because you don't do it every day. You're not. You're supposed to suck at this, So being able to have these conversations and empower individuals to seek the career that they're looking for has been really, really awesome. And then another thing that came out of Puente Tech and out of trying different things is that I'm very, or I should say I've been very Latinx focused. I've been really intentional about being Latinx focused. And now I'm finding that my biggest impact might be with leaders that are not Latinx. I was like, I think I want to specialize in white men. I'm like, I think I want to be like the best at dealing with white men because I find that Latinx, they already know what I'm talking about. You don't need me. People that are not like me, they're the ones that need me. And and to be honest with you, it took me a long time to have the courage to say that because I think I've avoided working with white men intentionally because I feel like I didn't always have the answers to, I didn't always feel confident enough to educate them. I'm like, can they really learn from a person like me? And I think my cultural values also tie into like be humble, just be grateful and all this shit, right? I'm like, now I gotta be more assertive. I gotta be more out there. I have to give off this level of like, I know what I'm doing. So this is why you should listen to me, which is completely against what I grew up learning culturally. Mm-hmm. So I'm like in this weird hybrid combination of a person between being American and being Mexican and being a woman and being a consultant and being a business owner and like a career person. I'm like all of this. And that is where I'm at with Puente Tech.
Sounds good. So I know that you have done some work with businesses as well with Puente Tech. Can you talk a little bit about what that work has looked like? And are you planning to continue any of that?
Yes. Oh my God. I love the work I've been able to do. We started off doing workshops. It was like the first thing that we started doing like resume and storytelling workshops, but I was like, that's not challenging enough for me. I need to do something different. I really wanted to get my hands on strategy. So I started working with a few organizations, and my main client, who's like ongoing, they're a nonprofit, they're a tech nonprofit, and some of the stuff that I've been able to do with them is like a team culture and leadership evaluation. So I was able to evaluate where they stand as an organization and what is the listening of the leaders right now. So identifying areas for opportunity for their development and how do their employees experience that organization. So out of that, I was like, these are all the things we can do to solve this. And then they were like, okay, great. Okay, now do it. And then I was like, oh, okay, me? Okay, cool. So something like creating a staff development program that they never had. I built an inclusive hiring practices program for them because they didn't have a hiring process. They really were more like, you know, however, whatever the need was, they would hire that way. Or maybe they met someone they liked first and created a position for them versus creating an equitable opportunity for people to apply, for people to go through a structured process and proper evaluation of candidates. So I got to do some of that. And something that, you know, you won't find in the invoice is a lot of leadership coaching. You know, it's like a lot of what I do isn't just, I don't know if this is just how I work or if this is how other people work. It takes time. It takes a lot of conversation sometimes. You're introducing a lot of new things to people, you know, especially our clients sometimes don't have the jargon or the language or the structure that we have, you know. So for me, one of the things that has been really important is to meet them where they are, you know, learn how to teach for them, learn to speak to their listening, because what works for me in my listening is not what works for people from other backgrounds or other personalities, you know. So that's some of the work that I've been doing with my clients. And I think my favorite, absolute favorite, was when people got promoted and people got raises out of my evaluation and they were women. And I'm just like, I was almost in tears because I was like, oh my God, I made a difference. Because, you know, I just come from working in a really big corporation where I don't always see the difference I make. You know, I can't, you know, with my work at Google, I can't tell you that I have as many personal stories that way as I do with working with clients for 1 year. And another thing that I really got from this experience was that it doesn't matter what company I'm working under, it doesn't matter the name or the website or the design. What people really remember about me are those moments, you know, those hard moments when we're able to get through it together, when we're able to make a difference, when people get promotions, you know, they sent me a note like, oh my God, things have been changing since you came. And I was like almost in tears because it's why I started a business. It's why I said, okay, let me try to be my own person outside of the big name. And regardless of how it's going, I think it's going pretty well.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, so as far as some other things that I've heard you talk about that you're working on, DE&I, diversity, equity, inclusion, gamification is one of them. Can you talk about that and what that means?
Yes. So this is one of the most, I think, innovative things that I've gotten my hands on. A lot of what I've been doing so far is very much me just writing a lot of things, researching a lot of things, but this is different. So how we came to this situation was working with a company called Ring a Ring, and what they focus on is knowledge as a service. So they call it CAS. And they did this whole case study on how people learn and how we essentially learn much better if we're seeing something 1 minute per day versus us going to a 3-day course. We're probably not going to retain any of that. But if we play a game with it where we see something for 1 minute a day for 30 to 60 to 90 days, we see much more of a retention. So that's the idea behind gamification. And this particular company, the person who was the founder, used to be a coach of mine years ago. And he reached out to me through LinkedIn, and he's like, I see you're doing great and you started a company. you said you were going to do this years ago and you finally did it. Can I speak to you? I get on the phone with him. His name's Robert. And he was like, I'm so proud of you. Are you ready to work with us? We really want you to use up our software and create your own DEI modules and show them to people, because I think they're a company that has had a hard time getting a diverse perspective, given that they're all very similar, which is not uncommon, for organizations of their size. They're probably under 50 people right now. So I knew that I had something to offer. And I knew that it's very important to them to have our opinion, because Madeleine and I, my business partner, are both working on this. But we essentially build modules, and modules are like little tiny learning segments is how I can describe them. And why we say gamification is because it's almost like you're going to learn about a topic like imposter syndrome and the impacts of that in the workplace through a game. You actually play a game on an application on your phone that has a bunch of little questions for you to start looking and assessing your behaviors and your habits. So you essentially start building new ones. So we can prompt you like, oh, is this really what is happening? Or is this what your imposter syndrome is telling you? Or, that's not exactly the question, but it's something like that, where we can track the back-end analytics and we could see if our teams are playing. We could see if our teams are getting certain questions wrong, so that we can focus and maybe build a workshop around something that the staff is not understanding. And we're doing this to introduce diversity and inclusion topics to companies. We're still in development stages of it, but I think the first one that I'm going to show to a potential client is going to be on imposter syndrome, but for people over the age of 55. So that totally blew my mind, because me as a person I am, when I hear DEI, I'm talking about Black and Brown people. I'm talking about things, though that's very much at the top of my mind. But, I never considered that people go through ageism, because I don't deal with that, So when I was telling this woman about my idea about imposter syndrome and Latinas and tech, she was like, wait, well, I'm not a Latina, but I am at this age and I work at a startup, and there are no other people my age, and we all branched off and created our own organization, and I want you to come and show us imposter syndrome, because a lot of us are reskilling and going back to the workforce as like content developers or X, Y, and Z. And she said, it's kind of silly for a person that's 65 to consider themselves a content creator, but that's who we are, and that's what we're learning how to do. And I want everyone to be able to reimagine themselves. I was like, whoa. So that's a little bit about how gamification can impact an organization. And this is how I express it to people that might be of interest. And this is the one that we're starting with.
Nice. That's really awesome and really interesting work. So obviously you're going through a lot of changes with your company, and it's evolved so much since last year. What do you envision is to come, and what would happen in your ideal world with it?
What do I anticipate coming? Well, I think that this year is going to be a lot of concentration for me. I have a hard time with that. I actually have a hard time with concentration and productivity sometimes. I'm a big idea person. I love ideas. I love being like off the wall. But that's also against me, because I like ideas so much that it's hard to execute them, because I got so many of them. So right now, I have a coach. I have an amazing coach, by the way, but I'm like, thank God, because I need to be kept in line over here. And she's really great at refocusing me, and really asking the questions that would have me reflect. Right before I'm about to go off on a rabbit hole, I sent her back in. So what I expect this year is for me to build my online presence. I pretty much dread it, to be honest with you. I'm like, well, if you know me, you know me, and that's how I'm going to get clients. And my coach is like, okay, yeah, that is how you've been getting clients, and it's not how you're going to reach your milestones. It's not how you're going to reach X, Y, and Z. And branding long term. So you can expect me to have a lot more of an online presence. I don't exactly know how just yet, probably around a podcast or a vlog, because everyone wants to see video nowadays. So I'm like, I got to get over whatever it is that I'm dealing with about being on video. I get shy, but I think it's time to show my face to the world. So that's something you can expect. And then you can just expect for me to keep working with different clients on people operations and discovering. I really had to let go that this had to go a particular way. I really had to let go. I like to hang on to the idea that I have to be successful this way, because I'm like, I have to have a goal. I have to know where I'm going. But I'm like, what if I can just not know? I can just play and I could try things. And what if this is about the practice and not the outcome? I don't know. These are the questions that I have on my mind, because I love success. I love being here. I love being the work that I do, but I also want to start a family. I also want to get married. I also want to buy a home with my partner. So I think in the middle of just being at a certain age where my body's like, you need babies now. It's time to really grow gradually, but like all areas of my life. I don't want my career to take off and all the other areas of my life be shitty. That's not what I want anymore. And I think that in my 20s, I was okay with that. I really was. I'm like, who cares about that? Who cares? But now I want all the areas of my life to work and to be how I envision my life being. So I see myself actually staying in the corporate world for a few more years, because I'm like, yeah, I think I'm ready to start my family and have that security for a while, but gradually building my business. I actually don't see myself stopping either. So I'm really clear about that. So I was like, I don't know if I should focus more on career coaching, because that's easier to manage as I have a full-time job. But at the same time, the world is calling me for different things, so I don't know where I'm going to end up. But I think what is for certain is that I'm going to remain consistent in who I am and what I love doing. And that I think that the business world is going to straighten out itself, if I remain true to who I am. So that's what you can expect this year.
Awesome. Well, if people are looking for you online, where can they find you in Puente Tech?
Well, for Puente Tech, they can find us at puentetechjobs.com. And for me, or you can find me either way, but for LinkedIn is going to be the best. Absolutely the best way to reach me is going to be my LinkedIn, whether it's just to meet or whether it's to expand your network, whether it's for career coaching or people operations, whether it's to think with a crazy person with crazy ideas. I'm certainly that person. So that's where you can reach me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Anything else to add? I would say what I would add to anybody who's listening or watching is that I really wanted to come here and be fully just authentic about my journey. I originally wanted to come here and give you a really organized story. And I was like, that would not be anything like me. So just thank you so much for interviewing me, for asking me the questions, and for getting my name out there as well. Thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you.